Philadelphia's offense isn't the only side of the ball staring down some major changes, as a new report over the weekend on Vic Fangio is really the last thing the Birds wanted to deal with right now. However, it sounds like Howie Roseman has a solution that could make everybody involved pretty happy, because the alternative is less than ideal. Oh, and Sean Mannion and Josh Grizzard aren't the only changes still happening to the Birds' offense, and this one just might fix their biggest issue. I'm Thomas Mott, this is the Thomas Mott Show. Well, just when all of us were riding the high of a brand new, innovative, anti-Ken Patullo offensive coordinator, that one dreaded rumor that's been quietly whispered behind the scenes in Philadelphia is no longer a rumor. As the news this morning on Vic Fangio is very real, very concerning, but maybe good in the end. Right now, there are a ton of conflicting reports on the future of the Birds DC and who they actually looked at to maybe replace him. Oh, and speaking of replacements, it sounds like the offensive coaching staff is only just beginning to see some much-needed turnover. First, though, because I know it's been freezing where you live and freezing where I live. My goodness, this week's been nuts. I convinced the guys at Wave 1 Sports to do yet another giveaway plus discount code of their Birds apparel, this one right here, Kelly Green Hoodie. I mean, come on, this thing's incredible. Hand-stitched Birds logo right here. Nike as well, super comfortable. And to enter the giveaway, drop a like in today's video. Why don't you comment Go Birds down below? Now, of course, if you want to grab one of these ultra premium hoodies on your own with the discount, on the website down below, and yes, again, the Killing Green ones are back in stock. Here's the code. It's very simple. Just use Mott at checkout. Again, I'll link down below to get the discount. Each hoodie you buy helps out my channel and gets you a great hoodie as well. Now, to break down the Fangio situation, we go to the beginning. That was last Wednesday when Adam Schefter was on The Fanatic and hinted at a second big news drop that was non-offensive coordinator related. And everybody, myself included, immediately thought maybe Lane Johnson retiring, Brandon Graham retiring, but I did also make a short mentioning Vic Fangio, which was honestly met with a ton of comments saying, Thomas, that's dumb because why do they let Vic's heir apparent, Christian Parker, leave the Cowboys? The Eagles aren't that stupid. Vic Fangio is not retiring. And well, sadly, at least today, it seems like Adam Schefter was in fact referring to Vic Fangio because there has been a brand new report on him potentially retiring or maybe potentially coming back. And yes, it is confusing because right now we really don't know. But it all stems from Philly Voice's Jimmy Kempski, who broke the story on Sunday. Really great story, by the way, where he wrote, quote, according to multiple sources, the Philadelphia Eagles got a big scare recently when legendary defensive coordinator Vic Fangio informed the team that he was retiring from coaching in the NFL. However, sources said that Fangio was convinced by the team's brass to stay for at least one more season in 2026. Okay, so there we have it. Vic Fangio did, in fact, the rumors were true a couple of weeks ago, tell the Eagles he was going to go ahead and retire at the end of this past season. However, whether it was Howie or Nick or the players, they got to him and convinced him to come back. But it doesn't end right there, because the NFL Network's Mike Garafolo chimed in and quote tweeted saying, quote, Vic Fangio's return has been uncertain and sort of still is. It's been leaning to the positive recently, but could change again. The Eagles haven't confirmed or denied anything to this point. Later added on by none other than Jeff McClain, who said, quote, Vic Fangio has been talking about retirement since before the end of the season, but the Eagles had yet to receive a final decision either way as of recently. He keeps talking retirement, but he did that same thing last year, a team source said last week. The 67-year-old defensive coordinator hasn't responded to questions about his future since the end of the season. The team remains hopeful that Fangio will eventually decide to return. At a locker room cleanout, I asked Nakobe Dean if he thought Fangio would retire. He said, I really don't know. Vic has always said that he'll stop coaching whenever it doesn't get fun. And at least it has been recently, so that's TBD. And there you have it. That's a lot. So essentially, according to this, my view on it is that Vic Fangio did retire a couple of weeks ago. He told the team, told his players he was out. That's when the rumors started kind of mumbling behind the scenes. Oh my gosh, Vic Fangio was gone. The players and coaches, and maybe even Howie Roseman, convinced him to go ahead and come back. He said he would, but didn't really give them 100% confirm. And so it's kind of up in the air, but leaning to the positive that Vic is going to go and return. Still, though, my main question, and yours as well, is why the heck did the Eagles let Christian Parker go to Dallas a couple of weeks ago when clearly they knew Vic Fangio was either mulling retirement or technically had retired? And the only answer I can think of is that Parker himself thought Vic was not going to go through with the retirement because remember, Vic, according to reports, has been talking about retiring since the Birds won the Super Bowl this time last season. Maybe CP, like others, thought this was a boy crying wolf, one too many times situation, saw the opportunity in Dallas, too big to turn down, and then, ran over to the Dallas Cowboys. Either way, though, they should have never let Christian Parker even come close to leaving the building with Vic, again, the past 12-plus months, seemingly 1 foot out the door. The crazy thing about all of this, though, is that it gets even more nuts because, according to the Philly Voice, the Eagles actually reached out to former Birds defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, not kidding here, to gauge interest in his return before the recently fired Cardinals DC accepted the Green Bay Packers job. Yeah, we were really close to Philadelphia giving us Jim Bob Cooter as offensive coordinator and Jonathan Gannon as defensive coordinator a couple of weeks ago. Oh my gosh, selling that to the Eagle fan base would have been absolutely nuts. But apparently, Philadelphia wasn't done. They at least planned to check in on disgruntled Browns defensive coordinator and former Eagles DC Jim Schwartz, whose own status in Cleveland remains very much up in the air because he was passed over for the Browns head coaching job. I mean, personally, I would rather have Schwartz, but we cannot forget the fact Philadelphia spent the past 2 seasons building a defensive unit specifically structured around Vic Fangio's scheme. Schwartz would be a complete 180. And heck, going out and finding an ex-Fangio disciple at this point would also be dodgy because nobody really has been able to duplicate Vic's scheme to great success. I mean, we had a Fangio disciple in Sean Desai a couple of years ago, and look how that ended up. Either way, Philadelphia is technically still in a bind because either Vic Fangio retires next couple of days, and then they're really in a bind. They're really panicking because Jim Schwartz is probably their only option, and getting him would be very, very tricky. Or they only have 1 more year of Vic Fangio. And so by this time, next year in 2027, they're going to have to find a brand new defensive coordinator who either has a very similar scheme style to Vic Fangio, or they have to do a complete 180. I have been wondering, though, how Howie was actually able to convince Vic to return 1 more season. My guess is maybe he promised to bring back some of his core guys who are free agents in names like Nakobe Dean and Jaelen Phillips. Maybe part of that carrot dangled on a stick was a promise to re-sign 1 or even both of these defensive stars who have been absolutely incredible in Vic's scheme. And thankfully, it did get technically a little easier over the weekend as the NFL announced that the 2026 salary cap, this new league year in March, is going to rise nearly $30 million to over $300 million per team, which puts the Birds at an estimated $20.2 million right now. With the new cap, again, it'll change a little bit, but right about $20 million. And $20 million is enough to re-sign a guy like Jaelen Phillips, who I think Vic Fangio absolutely loves. They just traded for him. Could they get Phillips and Nakobe Dean both getting extension with $20 million? I don't think so. What happens to Reed Blankenship? Be a little bit tricky. But Howie is Howie, and Howie likes to work his magic, and that magic, in my opinion, would include extending Jordan Davis and or Jalen Carter in the coming weeks before the new league year in order to kick their salary cap hits later down the line, as Howie loves to do, thereby freeing up more cap space now in order to go ahead and re-sign Phillips or any other big-ticket item Vic Fangio potentially could want to go ahead and return. This whole thing is nuts. I mean, I heard the rumors that maybe it was Vic Fangio, and I was like, it's too late. There's no way. Christian Parker's already gone, and yet here we are. It's been confirmed that Vic Fangio is probably coming back, but again, as we talked about, we really don't know. What Philadelphia doesn't need is more change, though, because offensively, everything is changing. Talk about that in a second. What you don't want to have happen is complete new staff on offense and a complete new staff and scheme on defense. I think with that being said, Vic does come back. Let me know down below if you agree. Now, moving over to the offensive side of the football, which I look at as the unit that Nick and Campitulo used to waste a full year of Vic Fangio by having A.J. Brown run this same shallow motion into a 5-yard hitch about 90,000 times, which, gee, I wonder why he was so frustrated last year, but that's a story for another day. Either way, though, it does sound like Sean Mannion, the new Birds OC, is about to get a chance to make some serious staff changes. Mike Garfolo also tweeted, quote, "Meanwhile, expect some changes to the Eagles' offensive coaching staff. New OC Sean Mannion met with position coaches on Friday and is huddling with Nick Sirianni on which to retain. Team wants to give Mannion some of his own guys to help, but it's a blend of old and new. And while I don't know exactly who will be gone, who will stay, I do have some ideas, and you have to look at where Philadelphia was bad at positionally in 2025. To me, Aaron Moorhead, the Eagles receiver coach for the past couple of seasons, he got a ton of criticism this year, and honestly, it was rightfully so, because the Eagle passing attack and really the route running from the wide receivers was pretty low effort at times. They also had terrible blocking, a ton of penalties, drops, as I mentioned, poor route detail. And while we can't know for sure if that was KP or Moorhead, we do know that changes are more than overdue. And I, for one, would be okay with a change here and also some other places. Maybe tight end coach, because they can't develop anybody, especially Grant Calcaterra, behind Dallas Goedert. Run game coordinator, all that Stoutland drama from last week, who knows? Maybe offensive assistant. I think you're going to see multiple major changes on the Eagles' offensive coaching staff. If it is Moorhead, if it's not, I don't know. But it sure sounds like they're going to give Sean Mannion some pretty good autonomy. And that should be a no-brainer. I mean, the whole idea of bringing in Sean Mannion is that he's completely different than Nick Sirianni. And so why would you want to keep Sirianni's guys, or I guess KP's guys, and then have them work under Sean Mannion? It doesn't make sense. So clearly, changes are going to happen to get this offense back on track, looking new and looking fresh. In the end, though, this all sounds good as long as Vic Fangio comes back, which let me just circle back on that for 1 second here, because it goes without saying, Vic Fangio is 68 years old, and he's spent decades in the National Football League, and if he wants to retire right now, he is well within his right to do so. It would just be a little bit of a bummer because it's so late in the coaching cycle. Either way, this is a great example of why NFL teams must take advantage when given an opportunity to win it all. The Eagles going on that magical 2024 run can never be undone. In fact, it seems like they're only going to get 2, at most 3 seasons with Vic Fangio, the great defensive genius, at least makes me happy they made the most of it and won a Super Bowl with Vic at the helm. Still, Vic Fangio, if you're hearing this, if you're watching this, please stay. We need you for one more season. And then, we'll see if maybe Howie Roseman can get you some free agents back. Maybe go out in free agency and sign some guys that you like. Make a big trade, Max Crosby. People go nuts for that, but we will see. Either way, crazy times are happening. You might think that the Eagles season is over, and yet this is what's going to happen for the next couple of months because free agency is next month. All the free agency rumors are this month. The draft is in April. Buckle up. Be sure to subscribe. Watch the show because it's going to be very, very interesting. And also, again, giveaway for the Birds Apparel Wave 1 Sports Hoodie. This bad boy right here. Obviously, leave the comments down below. Drop a like. And then go to my link down below if you want to buy one for yourself. There were like 150 of you guys who bought one last time around. And so if you didn't get one back then, the discount code Mott is back. And so jump in on that deal. I'm Thomas Mott. Early on a Monday. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.